Hello ladies and gentlemen, PlayAsia supplied me with this copy of this game, so if you want to support me and the channel, use the link in the description to go and buy something, and there's also a coupon code you can use to save a couple of bucks off your order. You'll be helping me out and hopefully you'll be buying something good. Thanks for your support, enjoy the show. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Hero Must Die Again. This is post-commentary by the way, because, well, I just can't for the life of me get through a session of this game without needing to stop for a few minutes and think about what the hell I'm trying to say, so we're going to do it post. This is a RPG with a unique idea that you've won. The game's over, more or less, but you died in the final boss fight, and an angel has decided to come back and give you 5 days to basically sort out the world in front of you. And it's like, cool. So you go about your business, you take care of people, you do requests for them, despite the fact it's after the war, they really should be doing this stuff themselves at this point. And then you die, and then you get to resurrect, and then you get to do it all again. And I must admit I'm disappointed. I was actually looking forward to playing this game, because it came out on Vita a while back, before being re-released on PS4, Switch, and PC as this version, which not only has proper English, which is the reason why I didn't really get to Yusha Shishu, as they called it, but it's also it's just also nice to have it in English and be able to play it on something like PC. This version also has extra content, although I'd be lying if I could tell you exactly what content that is. There's a few graphical options going on. Not that much. There's this one weird bug where if you try to alt-tab out while you're in dedicated full screen, then tab back in while you're on a monitor that has frame rate higher than 60, it'll actually uncap the frame rate and the game will run at 4 times the speed. I know, I think that's hilarious myself, but anyway. You've also got some sound options, although I'd really appreciate being able to turn the voices down because they're really loud for some reason, and yet they're the only one that doesn't have a meter. You can also remap every key on the keyboard, which is nice because, well, it's just nice to be able to do that. You don't even have to worry too much about this game not being playable on keyboard because, well, there's not that many controls to it. It's mainly just cursor movement for the most part, although it is also worth noting that if you're playing on a controller, like I was for this footage, you can actually swap A and B in the control menu, and it swaps it in the menu as well, and it starts out the wrong way. So, you know, you press B on an Xbox 360 controller as OK and A as go back. That's nice. You do also have the opportunity to replay your funerals, which is one reason I dislike this game, which is the funeral system. And basically, at the end of your 5 days, it determines whose quests you completed and all of that, and it determines how many people show up at your funeral. This doesn't make any sense to me, though, because you're the hero that killed the Demon Lord, and yet the amount of people who turn up at your funeral are people who were affected by what you did after you beat the Demon Lord? Despite the fact the Demon Lord was supposed to be one of the biggest things, like the biggest threats in this entire game's universe. There's a lot of things about this game that don't make very much sense, and the majority of them seem to hover around the idea of, like, the entire plot. Now, this is first impressions. I've only been playing this game for about 3 hours. This footage is at the start of my second resurrection, and you might wonder why I'm stunned when I reach the Demon King's castle and find that there's nobody there, because the first time I resurrected, turns out there was a Demon King there. Despite the fact that I'd killed him, supposedly. And I'm thinking to myself, why is this guy still here? Did I literally die for nothing at this point? And you know what the weird thing is? When you fight the Demon King again, you whoop his ass. I had nothing but my guy and Thomas, who's like your permanent servant, right? So, I only had these two. However, they start at max level because, well, it's the end of the game, as I said before, so you're all max level. Your main character, like, slowly gets weaker as the days go by, but other than that, you're all basically as strong as you're gonna get. And you go and fight the Demon Lord, and he goes down so easily. You legitimately whoop his ass. And I don't understand, like, it doesn't make any sense in the context of the story. If he was that weak before, why did it take us practically killing ourselves to, well, not even defeat him? It's weird, they kind of give away a little bit of a story blip at the end of this footage, but that's just kind of the thing about this game's universe. It's not fleshed out enough to make any sense, and this continues on through multiple things in the game's, like, mechanics and environments and what have you. Like, for example, when you go through dungeons, when we go to the world map, you actually get to see, like, the entire thing, and I go over the, like, 4 towns and 4 dungeons there are in the game, and you have to trawl through them in order to get items and equipment and stuff. And yes, there is still equipment there, despite the fact they very specifically say when you go through there for the first time as you, the player, they say when you came through the first time as the hero previously before they died to the Demon Lord, that you'd cleared the places out, practically. Like, you'd already gone through them. So why they're still thoroughly populated with monsters and treasure and what have you, I have no bloody idea. It doesn't make any sense. And it just continues on like this as well. Like, again, like, why is the Demon King still alive? We've all been through, like, this whole thing with the, we've all been through this whole thing, this whole journey together. Like, we've got a few people who, like, came along with us to the final fight in the introductory cutscene, and they're all gone, and none of them want anything to do with you when you show back up. It's really bizarre. It's implied that it's only supposed to be, like, a few hours at most since you fought the Demon Lord, and yet your entire party just basically vanished into thin air, and none of them are even remotely willing to join you again. It's really bizarre. I don't understand it. They don't act like normal people would in this situation. Another great example of this is in that cutscene in the very beginning that's already gone by in this footage. You and Thomas, who was apparently supposed to be like your mentor, have completely forgotten the love of your life, the woman you went to save from the Demon Lord as part of the climax of the plot that we are past. And I'm thinking to myself, why does no one see this as a massive red flag? Should we not be raising the alarm as much as humanly possible that something really weird is going on, despite the fact the Demon Lord is supposed to be dead? It's not implied or anything that you can carry memories between loops, although something very clearly does change between loops. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre. Like, as I said before, the Demon Lord was there in the first loop, but then in the second loop he's not, and then they actually add, like, content and plot threads as part of, like, the second loop, because there's a character I get later on in this video who gets, who's responsible for rebuilding a church. In the first loop, you get her, you do her story, and it's like, yeah, she says she's going to rebuild the church, she's happy, she comes along with you for the entire thing. Then in the second loop, if you do the same stuff again, although for some reason the goal changes in the sense that you don't have to give her a ton of money anymore, you just need to bring her a certain item, she ends up going into this entirely different subplot about, like, it's weird demon children that are hiding out under a certain area. And it's like, why couldn't I do this the first time through? What changed between the first loop and the second loop? I mean, I might have been going into this with the wrong expectations. I was expecting something along the lines of a roguelike, where you carry over certain things between runs to help you, like, you know, eventually save the world completely in one perfect run, a la Persona 4, all social links maxed out sort of thing, right? But here's the thing, this game is very specifically, like, balanced so that you can't do that. I've been through, like, both this run and the run that I did before I recorded this footage, and there is no godforsaken way that you would be able to manage to pull off everything in one run. Your health detracts too quickly. There's not a chance that by the time that you are too weak to realistically be taking place in battles, because if you as in your main character goes down during a fight, it takes another 6 hours off the clock, and when you've only got like 100 something hours, 6 hours, trust me, is a lot. It just, yeah, there's no way to do it, so I don't see why they feel the need to lock other story content behind these loops, especially when they don't seem to give a reason for this to be happening in the first place, or at least some foreshadowing that something is definitely going wrong, other than, like, the Demon King is back for whatever reason, and someone's subplot changes. Like, you could work under the assumption that that was how the world was meant to be in the first place, and the first loop was just a tutorial run or something. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the game's trying to have it both ways. It's trying to have a neat system where you get weaker as you go on, and you've got to try and get as much done as possible. And it also seems to be trying to stick to its own sort of plot, where it's told over the course of multiple loops, and you can't really do much to influence or stop it. And then you've got that whole funeral system going on, which again doesn't make sense in the context of the world. We literally just beat the Demon Lord. There should be thousands of people thanking me for what I bloody did. And overall, it just leaves me feeling confused. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing it. And it's not really helped out by the world either. As I said before, the dungeons are filled with loot and monsters and stuff like they've never been touched before, despite the fact that you've apparently been through this. There's still massive monsters everywhere that are giving everyone troubles at the point where it feels like you didn't do anything at all. And the worlds themselves, like the towns, the characters in them, and the... excuse me. And the overall backstory of the world and plot just doesn't feel like it's there. It all feels flat, like there's nothing going on in the background whatsoever. And again, in a game where we supposedly finished off the Demon Lord and saved the entire, like, country, to have it basically feel like your regular old-fashioned RPG world, but you start at level 100, is really disappointing for something with as cool as a concept as this. With that said, though, let me talk about the actual gameplay for a bit. It's pretty simple. You wander around, you attack monsters, you get into traditional RPG-style fights. The one thing that really makes the game stand out is that everybody starts out at... I say stand out, but not really. Everybody starts out basically at max level. They can still level up, but it's very minor. There's only one character I saw in the 3 hours or so that I played that actually needs any particular leveling up, and they were leveling up so quick that by, like, near the end of my second rejuvenation, they were almost as strong as the main character anyway. As a result, most of the battles so far have felt like pretty repetitive affairs, because since everyone is so inhumanly strong, it's entirely possible to just leave it on auto. There are some elemental rules that do come into it though. You got fire, water, and wind, and they're all weak and strong to each other, as you would expect. And if you don't play by these rules, the game will kick your ass sometimes. Like, if you're fighting bosses, you should probably be paying attention, but fights against random dudes you just run into as you go along is just boring. And I said it before and I'll say it again, by the time you get to like mid-Thursday, early Friday, you're going to be so weak that you're not going to be able to fight anything, because you're just going to run out of time if you do. So you just end up thinking to yourself, well, what's the point? What do I do? And thankfully by that point you should be able to avoid, afford, I should say, a lot more of the item that make you invulnerable to people and make you flash like you've got the star on from Super Mario Brothers. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty simple combat, and I found myself not really enjoying it that much just because there's basically no difficulty to it. Especially when you start getting a bunch of party members together, because the main idea is that you wander around, you find party members, you do their quests for them, and they join your party. It's that simple. And once they join your party, well, you can give them items to make them stronger. You can give them things like flowers to make them your romantic partner. Not worth it, by the way. Trust me, I tried. And it's just... none of it's interesting because none of it's written very well. There's no depth to the world or anything behind it. There's no real intrigue going on. There's nothing, basically. Because again, the story's over, more or less. Then they don't seem to be wanting to put another story in place to really make it worth the effort of going and doing all their quests. Unless you're like the girls. And, well, there's a lot of girls, I'll tell you that much. A lot more girls than there are dudes, that's for sure. But none of them are interesting either. They're all pretty stereotypical with zero depth, no real writing for them, and even the romantic encounters are not great. They really aren't. One other thing I have to say about the gameplay as well, several times throughout this footage already, you might have noticed that the screen goes completely red, your controller vibrates, and it makes a really loud sound effect along the lines of just a loud, threatening noise, and it kind of scares the crap out of me, if I'm being perfectly honest. The first time it happened, I'm like, what the fuck was that? But no, it's just the sign that your stats are going down and that you're getting physically weaker. And you do have to do some kind of neat things, like you actually have to swap down equipment as you go because the stronger stuff gets too heavy for you to use effectively. It's a nice touch, but it just kind of seems unnecessary. And, I mean, there's really nothing else to it as far as I can tell. You wander around doing what you can. You kind of have to just be feeling around for a bit. Mainly because of how, you know, you don't go in knowing anything about the world or any idea where anything is. So you just have to hope that you stumble across the items you need to successfully finish quests. Which is kind of frustrating, because if you don't know where to go, you're basically just left wandering directionless in a game where wandering takes away time that you have. And just hoping that for the best. And then when I started the second run, I'm like, well, I was going to do the same thing I did again. There we go. I was left wandering around thinking, alright, I'll go kill the Demon King again. I'll go find some more items. I'll basically do the same thing I did last time, but maybe branch off a bit. See if I can find some more interesting things to do in the world. Didn't, but tried anyway. And then I went and looked up some of the game's content online, and I actually started getting really frustrated because, as it turns out, they don't actually start giving you, like, the proper story or depth to the world that I'm looking for until you get to, like, reincarnation number 4. And at the rate I'm going, that's like 6 hours in, and that's 6 hours of boring RPG combat, shoddy writing, unimpressive world building, and just not having any fun, despite the fact that this is a concept with a lot of promise. I'm just so disappointed, if I'm being really honest with you. Like, you could have done this in one of two ways. Do it a roguelike style way, where everything's available from the beginning, but you don't know where anything is, you don't know what quests you need to go and do, and just, you have to go around and see if you can figure that out. Or you can do it in a more structured way, where you kind of have to do everything on rails, but you do get like a more solid story out of it with more involved character building and world depth and what have you. And they've gone for this weird in-between combination of the two, which just makes it feel not only more confusing, but it makes the overall world and environment make less sense. And so it just feels like nobody put any thought into this whatsoever. And that's the biggest disappointment. It's a concept that's been well and truly squandered. And that's upsetting. I wish there was more to it, especially early on. And I wish they just thought about some of the things in the world better. Like, seriously, why does the things you do after you've already beat the Demon Lord determine how many people show up to your funeral anyway? I don't get it. It makes no damn sense. That's pretty much all I've got to say on the matter. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's worth the time. It's not a good implementation of its concept. The gameplay itself is very basic and is missing just a couple of things. Like, there are some neat things that you can do, like you can free people from prison if they've been caught doing evil things, and you can do things like go fishing, but even then the fishing is RNG. I think that's all there is to it. Like, I went and did some fishing like in like 2 places, I think. I'm gonna say I think a lot in this next few paragraphs because this is legitimately like really confusing. So you press the button to throw the rod in, But there's no timing mechanic. There's no watch the bob mechanic. There's no nothing. It just seems to be complete random whether or not you catch anything. And that's apparently there's just like a whole giant side quest related to making this kingdom a fisherman's paradise before you die. Despite the fact that the fishing is no fun whatsoever. And that seems to be a pretty good summary of the game. Great ideas, bad execution. Inhuman filth! Like, I just saw that there on the footage as well. Like, what's the hero doing complaining about someone being in human filth? Like, that kid is apparently supposed to be like the hero in training. He's even got the same outfit that you do. And yet, he thinks that these people are filth. Where did that come from? Is there not something I should be saying about that? I mean, like, usually I would complain about 20-minute cutscenes out of nowhere, but at the same time, at least it would make sense to go off at this dude about his racism. Like, obvious racism. It just seems like what would make sense in this universe, but they didn't do it. I should stop. I'm gonna find more and more problems with this game as I go on. It's gonna drive me mad if I'm being perfectly honest. So, oh yeah, an RPG that doesn't let you buy more than one item at a time. What the hell? Come on, we figured that shit out 30 years ago. We literally figured that shit out before I was born, if that doesn't tell you something. Alright, I'm gonna shut up now and let you watch the rest of this footage. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.
ささやかな夢を叶えるために国中を旅する謎のお客さん、見るだけでもどうです？あら、子供あい。ブブ先生。勇者の鬼いても次は本気だぜ。
さて坊ちゃん。
いやいい。
では。
はじめまして勇者様。私はあなたのおかげで魔王、こんな不安な時だからぶしつけなお願いです。
承知した。
とある行商人様のおかげで、ですから戦時中に行く勇者様なら。
ここが。
また今度。
では。
最後の希望を守りいかな船も通し我には
命つこの鎧 て、あなたが救ったこの国のもしも何かお困りの時、良い旅を。あ、ちょっとお待ちになって。ヨナです。頑張ってくだ。おかえり。伝え聞いたところによれ私がこの間だし、私と
ああ、
生涯あなただけを愛し、亡きこれは下級騎士であった貴様が地域お二人のご成婚に加え、
国を救った若き王になられた坊ちゃん。
早速全国もしかして、勇者様のおかげでご神体の瑠璃にこれは感謝。実はもう一つご相談があります。
お安いご用だ。
勇者様と彼女が待ち合わせの場所は海辺にある。この青き入り江の奥にあるその泉の水を使っ命の泉こそがさあ。ほら、いつの間にやらお客さん、本当にこの機会にお手持ち。マイダーこんにちは。神様に祈っても間に合いそうもないと聖職者としてこの奥にいいんですが、立ち入りが勇者様には魔界から湧き出している。
ほう、勇者さん。わらわの名はベラナベル。このわらべたちはこのわらべたちに罪じゃが、勇者様 このわらべたちを見平安を飲まぬなら魔王。
お二人とも教会の聖職者が使う癒しの力は古い伝えたのはこの子たちと同じ魔族の血を引く聖女。癒しの魔法が使えるからには勇者様、どうかこの子たちが。
それは無理だ。
勇者。みんなベラレ待って。みんな行けろ。そこだ。行けよ。終わりだ。みんな行けよ。邪魔だ。いずれ この選択が魔王を倒し国を